Well, hello everybody. I'm the Orca Man, Fred, and today I'm here with Miss Vicky. Miss Vicky, I'll let you introduce yourself just a little bit, and then we'll dive right in.
All right. Hi, I'm Vicky. I'm 22. I'm from Miami and I work with kids at a school.
Woohoo! So great. All right. So the first question that I have is, where slash when did you come upon my pages on whether it was TikTok or Instagram?
A student showed me like the waterfall kind of video that you did.
Okay. Yep.
And we were like, because I literally wear orca earrings all the time. I have them in now, like a manatee and an orca. So like they know that I like whales and stuff. So the kid was like, "Oh, look at this guy's page." And I was like, "Wait." I was like, "What's his app for scientific purposes? Because he's cute." And she was like, "Oh, this is his app." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And it just went from there. Like they would distract me on purpose with like your TikTok. They would be like, "Oh, did you see this one?" I was like, "No, I haven't seen it yet. Let's watch it."
Terrible.
So
I
to
can
them, it was
remember
like
being a
a
kid and doing that, so that
distraction.
makes it even funnier that I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect. What got you into orcas in the first place if you already had the earrings and the rest?
As
Or
a
just
kid,
whales?
well,
Yeah.
I grew up in Miami,
Gotcha.
Miami Seaquarium. As a
Cool. Yeah.
kid, I always thought they were cool. Free Willy, obviously, as a kid, was one of my favorite movies.
100%.
I always like Free Willy. You can ask my dad, like he will tell you. I watched that VHS tape. I think we still have it in the attic somewhere, but like I watched it until I could not. Like
Thing
I
wasn't
watched it until
working
I stopped.
anymore.
In essence. Yeah, I don't think it worked anymore. But just that, and then I always like the ocean. Like I was little and I wanted to be an orca trainer.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where that I don't know where that went, but that was my goal as a kid.
That's awesome.
And
That's
I always liked going to like the whale shows.
gotcha. Well, with the whale shows, especially in Miami, that's about the closest place to see orcas, if anything. Like
Yeah,
you
it's like
there's
a
not really another place you
45
can go.
drive from my house.
Yeah. Is that Orlando? Oh, right, because it's Miami Seaquarium right there
Yeah,
with
it's
Lolita.
still pretty far from my house where I live because I live closer to the Florida Keys and I do that part of
Gotcha.
Miami. So
How far is
yeah,
Orlando from Miami and the Seaquarium? Because I actually haven't looked up
four
the distance.
hours.
Oh,
It's like
really?
a 4 hour drive. I have been to
Oh,
SeaWorld and seen the Orca show
yeah.
several times as a kid.
No, that's fair. That's where I'm pretty sure I have pictures just around of me because I only went to San Diego. I haven't been to any of the parks in Florida just at all growing up. So it's always interesting to hear about people in the different areas at least because each of the parks are different, and I know Miami Seaquarium is its own beast. I know I've been to Marineland in Canada, but like I said, that was one whale in different places. Um,
Yeah,
what grade do you teach?
fourth and fifth.
Fourth and fifth. Yeah, fourth and fifth was about the time where we would try to sidetrack our teachers about as much as humanly possible. I want to say, like, if I'm looking
Yeah.
back and thinking back, I think we got one of them on like graveyards to dinosaurs was one tangent that I can explicitly remember because it went on for like an hour. That was
Yeah,
all
my
too good.
tangents were pretty long.
So
Whether like
the
Harry Potter related, Star Wars related, or Orca related, they just knew how to.
they knew how to drag you on between them. That's
Yeah.
impressive. Those are three interesting ones for kids to explicitly get into because Harry Potter was, I feel like, more like heavily pushed on our generation. Star Wars a little bit, if
Yeah.
only because of the new ones.
Yeah, a lot of them were really into Harry Potter this year, which was actually made me proud. So I was like, oh, it's like something from my childhood is like finally coming to. I that had to be TikTok too. There's no way
Oh yeah,
that like
that
it would have
there's
happened on its own without TikTok. I don't
TikTok
think.
is funny with that because people have really taken Harry Potter like to another extent with it. Like I've seen
Yeah.
the Orca stuff is only so much. Star Wars is just people with lightsabers. Like it's like people doing
Yeah,
thirst
and there's a
traps and
guy that
people
looks
with
like
like a
Kylo
belt.
Ren. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I've seen him. I've
They
seen him
showed
on
me
there.
him too.
He's a good looking dude. He has a couple different ones, I'm pretty sure, because he does John Wick. He's Keanu
No, no,
Reeves as
there's
well.
a guy that's like it's just his pages that he looks like Kylo Ren. There's a
It's
couple that
just
look like
Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren,
Okay.
but there's one that is like a spitting him. It's nuts.
I'm surprised. That was one of the things when I was first starting with this, actually, just because there's literally a person for everything on TikTok. Like you can explicitly find people. There's one guy for lightsabers. There's one guy that looks like Kylo Ren. I know there's a thousand others, but when I was initially looking, I couldn't find any marine science ones. So I was like, the closest thing was you know, New Maine. Is that the account name? Like the guy who talks about animals like specifically. It's like usually like a minute long video.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
remember his name, but like I know who you're
No, I
talking about.
couldn't tell you. Yeah, yeah. But that guy, he was the closest thing I could find to it. I also find it funny that the waterfall video was the one that first set it off. So actually, so for anybody that doesn't understand, the waterfall basically on TikTok, there's different effects you can use. And so there's one where it like takes one section of the screen and just brings it down. And what I used to do is take like two sweatshirts, like one black, one white, and then I had a piece of like paper towel in my mouth, and I would like make an orca, and that was a thing for like a good 3 months, which was funny. When I actually didn't even look because even before that, I'm pretty sure you followed me, and then you've reached out because you were talking about the kids at one point. I'm not
Yeah, like
totally
I think
sure.
I think you had come across my page previously, but I had followed you, but I wasn't really paying attention.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure I saw an orca related, I was like, nice. And I followed you. And then I didn't really like focus on what your channel was about until like
Yeah,
one of the girls like found it and was like, oh look, like this guy, orcas.
he's
And
like teaching.
I was like, oh shit, okay. I
Started
mean,
getting more and more.
yeah, the minute I saw her kind of take interest in like what you were really talking about, and she
Yeah,
became like extremely upset about the fact that Miami Seaquarium operates the way it does,
yeah,
it clicked. And then I heard like you had released the first episode of the podcast,
yeah.
and I listened to it first myself, and then I played it for them, and then they all kind of were like, "Oh shit, this is kind of cool."
You played the podcast in the class?
Yeah, during free time, it wasn't explicit. I listened to it first.
Oh, you no, I come that like the fact that you played it in the class is the more of the part. I know for a fact because it was also with
Yeah,
my dad.
yeah,
So
it's so your dad, and I think you
yeah,
were just talking about like how you got into it, and most of them have been to Miami Aquarium.
yeah.
Pre-COVID, that was one of our field trips, and they
Okay,
would. I didn't like to go, but they would do the whale show, and I would go, and I would just stand outside.
yeah. It'd be a school trip at the end of the day.
Yeah, so like they would that was like their extent of like where it started and ended really for them with orcas. So once I saw they were taking interest, I was like, okay, this is something I can incorporate into like daily conversation and talking to them about like the topic to see where it goes.
That's awesome. That's what. So there was one girl who initially showed you and was like, "Oh my god, this guy's talking about orcas. Whatever, orcas are really cool now." Did that bleed into the rest of the class, like with her friends, or was it like how did
It
that
was
end up
more
going?
like
Was it you?
it was like she would show her friends, and then her friends were like, "Do you know who this guy is?" I was like, "Oh yeah, so and so showed him to me." And they were like, "Oh, he's cute. How old is he?" And I was like, you guys are children."
Like,
And
calm
then it
down.
became a, well, you're single, you should date. And I was like, no, 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 no. I was like, I'm gonna use this to teach you.
There you go. It was you got to use the skills where you can, or use the information where you can. At that point, especially too, if that's with kids right now, if you can get them interested in crap that they're already seeing, then it can only
Yeah.
extend further than that.
Yeah, exactly. Which I was shocked that it even came up on her TikTok, knowing that the other kids, like their For You page was like Charlie D'Amelio and like Addison Rae and like all these other big, I guess, TikTok names
Yeah,
that I didn't really know about until
big
they talked
dancing.
about it.
That's fair. I can remember like this one of the funny things too is either like with my For You page, I've never seen Charlie or Addison show up, or like a lot of the big names
Neither have
ever.
I.
Yeah, this I'm starting to think it's fake. Um, but no, that's extremely interesting. I'm also like this is one thing that I've tried to keep in mind a little bit more every time. It's like there are any number of people watching my stuff at any given point in time. That's been a weird thing to navigate. But that being said, once they started kind of building up, what were some of the key things that you kind of like attached to in terms of the education, or like how what did you do talk about to get them excited
I think
further?
more like once I saw that they were really all kind of like paying attention to what you did,
Yeah.
like, and what you like, I guess, study. Once I had told them, I like had DM'd you on Instagram, all of them were freaking out. I was like, okay.
Immediately like, okay, they're in.
I was like, this is, I was like, they're like, they're in it, they're paying
Yeah.
attention. So I just started kind of talking to them more about conservation and like why we have to. I've always been a stickler when they bring in single-use plastics.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if you don't, I was like, we're not gonna listen to the Orca Man today if y'all bring single-use plastic water bottles in my class. Like them talking to their friends about like orcas and kids outside the class. And during the after school care program, which I also worked, they
Mhm.
started talking to the little ones, like the little kindergartners and little ones about orcas. And then I'm telling you, it was Orcamania throughout the entire school from like January to June.
It really started at the beginning of the semester because January is when I like started this thing.
Yeah,
It had to have
once
been
that
right at the
podcast
beginning.
launched, it was like
Game over.
Orcamania, like throughout the whole school. Ridiculous.
So and like that's seriously a trend throughout the school from what you like from even the conversations that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Did you was there a point where you're like this is getting big, like in terms of like your personal circles? Because I can only imagine if the kids are saying what the parents must be saying
I knew
at
it
the
had gotten
beginning.
a little crazy. I knew it like really hit. I think like April when I adopted their orca.
Yep.
I think that's when like I realized like what did I create? When I turned around and I was like, these kids, when I had sent you like the video of them reacting to the
Oh
nudes,
yeah.
they were freaking out. And then you sent back that video and they were freaked out. Like there was kids crying because you had given them a shout out and they were like obsessed.
I
And then I
have to
was like,
say,
damn.
yeah. No, that's phenomenal. Once so how did you like was how planned was the orca adoption? Like how long in advance were you like, okay, no, this is a thing
Um,
that I want to try to do for the class?
I think I had looked into it like like late February, early March, but then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it around testing times. I know they get very stressed,
Yeah.
sitting in a room all day testing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna save it for testing to like surprise them as like a good job, you guys. Like you guys actually like sat for 4 hours and took a state standardized test, which suck.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Those they were never
Especially for
fun.
fourth and fifth grade. And then their end of year trip that would have been around that time got canceled because of COVID. So it was like they didn't really get a full school year how like our kids last year or in previous years did.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
felt
that would
bad
be
and I was like, I'm gonna adopt an orca for them, make them
that's
smile since they're showing interest in
yeah.
this.
No,
Like,
and that would work a treat. As a year thing, is that going to are they gonna keep their orca in the next class that they go to? Because it's gonna
I
have the
don't
little
know
bit
because
of
I know our
pretending too.
fifth graders, they're going to different schools.
Oh, I see.
So like here, the way that Miami's huge, so it's like they
Yeah.
don't really stay in school together.
Okay. Gotcha.
But for next year's kids, I don't know if I'm going to do like a contest and whoever wins gets to choose which one we adopt or how we or if we're gonna re-adopt the same one. I don't
I
know.
love
One of
how
my
early the
students
planning is.
did adopt Lazuli, which made me very
Oh,
happy.
that's adorable.
That
And
one hurt one of my heartstrings a little happy.
which one did you adopt for the class?
Lapis.
Lapis, right? Do you remember the pod and the number at all? I think it's
L103.
L103. Beautiful. That's fantastic. So you've also told me that Orcamania has also hit the rest of the classrooms, if I'm
Yeah.
right. How did that happen?
Because a lot of them they talk to each other outside of school.
Yeah.
So I'm one of the youngest people working in the building. I'm only
Okay.
22.
Yeah.
So a lot of them look up to me in a different way than they would like the older staff members.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once they saw me like really participate in like what we were doing, they
Mm-hmm.
turned around and they told their friends, "Hey, Miss Vicky's adopting us an orca." And then it became like random parents were like, "What do you mean you're adopting an orca? How does that work? Does it live here?" Like
Do you have a pool in the backyard?
the
How?
amount
Where are
of
we going?
is like is the orca coming here that I got? I was like, no, like it lives in the wild. We're
Yeah.
just like kind of sponsoring it for the year. I did get a lot of hate from some parents, but whatever.
What? One, why in the world would any parent hate on it? I feel like that's just dumb.
Right. They were
But
like, oh, it's stupid. It doesn't even live. I'm like, how the fuck are they gonna transport a wild orca to
do you
Miami,
know
Florida?
how much that would cost?
I'm like, do you know how much transportation?
Bro, the amount of money that it takes to transport an orca, let alone keep one in any place. That's the one thing, like whenever people talk about captivity right now, I'm like, there's nobody that has the money to take care of orcas casually, like
Exactly.
anywhere at all. The closest person to was Michael Jackson, and he tried and he was also
Fast.
turned down. Which is absurd. What does so that was what the hate looked like. That makes
Yeah, it
sense.
was really just like, oh, it's dumb, or I don't think that's like fun. And I'm like, okay, well, your kid likes it.
I was gonna say you don't have to. No, that makes it easy.
Yeah, I was like, it's not about you. Like, yeah, I'm not asking you to give me money for it.
No, and also too,
Like I
like
paid out of
for
pocket, out of the kindness of my heart.
I sincerely have to applaud you in a number of ways, though, if only because like I know I would have gone absolutely insane had my fifth grade teacher done that or something to that degree. Like I you're probably going to be able to see this better than anybody else because like it's there, but the kids have to appreciate this, and you have to see it in them whenever you're talking about this or when you're like when you engage with them about something that they're interested in, which I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
a
a lot of
different.
teachers don't do.
It's a like I could see it in their faces, like the genuine excitement of like, oh my God, we have an orca. And they went home and they told their parents. And this one mom came up to me and she was like, you are crazy, but I love it. She was like, she was like, my daughter who was on TikTok to like eat shit, like is
Yeah.
now following like this man who's like actually educating her on something. And she like hugged me. She was like, thank you. Like my daughter's actually showing interest in some form of science, which she's never done before in her life.
Yeah.
It made me
That's
cry.
fantastic. Well, yeah, because that's that's really powerful for especially fifth grade. Like that's a very important or that's a very impressionable age where you can kind of make some big decisions about how you view the world and the things that you can think of as like possibilities
Yeah.
at the least.
And then also like the promise of, oh, we're gonna watch Free Willy, which a lot of them had never seen because that's not their time.
Yeah,
A lot of them
that's
had
like
never heard of it.
well, it's a very 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 old movie for right
Yeah.
now. Like it's not only old but also too like it's not being circulated anywhere.
No. Like I had to buy DVDs because our VHS player at work does not work. And we have it on VHS, we don't have it on DVD. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go on Amazon, buy the DVDs, and we're gonna watch it.
That's
And I
awesome.
think that was like a huge, oh my God, they were like excited. It was like the day I announced that Lapis was adopted, we
Yeah,
watched Free Willy the day after, and then we watched Free Willy 2 and 3 and
that's awesome.
4. But
Yeah, whatever. But being that's a killer whale week. Like
yeah, like
that's a big deal. Still.
but it carried on so much so that like I have a pile of letters amongst my classroom things that they've written for you. They've drawn you pictures, they've made you bracelets. Like it's
I
not just like that they're like thanking me. It's like they've become attached to you.
I've I'm trying to keep that in mind even more so going forward. And it was one of the things about the video that I sent as soon as you adopted it, as soon as you adopted Lapis, because one, the excitement that was there, but two, it's just a little aside. There's one other podcast that I like, one podcast that I listen to continuously, and I sent in a question, and it's like relatively big. It makes me look like nothing. And they answered it on the air, and I just like sat down. I'm like, this is wait, like we exist in the same universe? Like what? Who are you? And so for that, like even that little video, like that made that much more exciting, at least for me too, because I know for a fact it's important to a certain extent.
They were
It's
extremely
impactful.
like they were like excited. Like they told everybody. It's like this guy from TikTok sent us a video and he said Vicky's name, and they were like freaked out. Like I'm
Oh,
telling you, I had kids cry watching the video, and I was like, "You're doing the most, but that's okay. You're very excited."
you're good. You're all set. That's a riot. Yeah, and they can also bask in the glory. They're the only people to ever get one.
Yeah,
Not
that's
hasn't existed yet. I
it's like
think I
favorite in my camera roll. It's like the
just in
video of them
case.
and then the video of you. Like
Those
it's
those two are
insane
great.
to me.
Well, because
Their
yeah, I
excitement was just nuts.
oh, it was when I turned on the video that you sent to me when you told them like I had to turn down my volume.
I
Like
don't know if you
I
hear them in
noticed
the
it.
beginning when I'm asking them if they know what I did.
Yeah.
I don't know if you hear them. They're like, "You're pregnant." I'm like, "Why would I bring you outside to tell?" I'm
Yes.
like, "Don't put that in the air." And then
No,
it's
it
like, "You're
was.
married." I'm like, "Why would I bring you outside to tell you that I'm married?"
It's like not that. Now they wouldn't squeal as much. I feel like for either of those things.
One of the little girls, I had to crop it out of the video. She was like, she was like, "You're dating the Orca Man." I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm gonna crop that out of the video." I was like, that's uncalled for.
Oh, too bad. They're very invested in your personal life. I gotta say, as
They
children
are.
are, though.
Because I told them if they were the ones that found me a husband, they could all go to my wedding. So They went hard on TikTok.
I give them a lot. Oh, that's hysterical that they actually went looking.
They did. They found a couple candidates, I guess.
I give them a lot of props for that.
Yeah,
So,
they're very invested little humans.
oh yeah. So that being said, that brings me to my next, or like the next interest that I have in what you've been doing so far, and it's actually to do with your personal life. So, if you
Yeah.
were to explain to the audience what you've been up to on Tinder, how would you go about it?
So I went through like a breakup, I want to say like April.
Yeah,
So I was like, let me go back to Tinder,
way it
see what's
goes.
on there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I had a different bio. I was like, oh, my ideal date is whatever, and it was like some stupid like fast food restaurant that we have locally.
yeah,
And I was like, you know what? I was like, let me change it. Let me see where I can get. Because one of my guy coworkers was like, oh, every girl has like, oh, my ideal date is blah blah blah, like some restaurant. And I was
sure.
like, okay, let me change it. So it became my ideal date is to free the wills and recreate Free Willy. And then immediately it was like every time I would match with someone, they would slide into my like Tinder messages like, oh, fuck SeaWorld, Free Willy, like
Yeah,
let's go get Lolita, like whatever, the whole spiel. And
they
I
got
was like,
really into it immediately. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, okay, this is more responses than I was getting before. I was like, okay, I was like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but like there's a program that you can adopt orcas and whatever.
Hell
And
yeah.
there was a couple of occasional like, oh, like they would just unmatch. There was a couple occasional like rude comments here and there, but whatever.
That's how they
And
go.
then there was a couple people, there was 13. That's my current count is 13
There's an
people that were
explosion.
like, they were like, how, like, that's cool. Like, how do you, how? And I
Yeah.
would just send them the information. They would send me like screenshots of their confirmation. They'd be like, I did it. I adopted XYZ Orca. And I was like, that is cool. I was like,
That
I'm
is
actually very excited.
fantastic. That's the most conservation work that I've seen to date. It's like just like that's the easiest casual conservation work ever. Just plugging
Yeah,
it.
it's been exciting.
That's
It's
awesome.
been interesting to like see how people interact about like with the Orca comments
Yeah.
and just to see
That's
like how they react. Like it's very interesting because a lot of people are like, are you like serious? Like, do you actually like orcas? I'm like, you have no idea. Like, yes, like I'm not kidding.
it is not a ploy at the least.
Yeah, this one guy was like, oh, I'll only adopt one if you adopt a manatee. I was like, I already have one. You want to see?
It's
Like,
like, bro, do you know who you're talking to?
yeah, literally. I
No,
was
there's
like, please.
no, it's awful. I haven't used an orca angle yet in Tinder or anything else, I gotta say.
You should.
I I'd be
You
interested in it.
should.
I was actually funny. I was at this I was at a July 3rd party recently up in Boston, and I was talking to a bunch of people and walked over to this one girl, and she was like, "Oh, like what do you do?" And I'm just like, the Orca Man thing is new, and I'm not getting paid enough for it to be like a full-time gig by any means. But I dropped like, yeah, I'm the Orca Man. She's like, what? So then I dropped J-Pod. I was like, she's like, Orca's like J-Pod. And I said, yeah. And then she ended up like going around like on a J-Pod rant to like everybody in the party. I just sat back and I watched her like do circles around, but it was hysterical because it was like, oh, this is something that people just in general have like got a vested interest in.
Yeah, I also did not know more of us existed.
Oh no, not a
To say
chance.
the least. I did not know. I was actually very shocked to see the amount of people that follow you and actually interact with you
Yeah.
about orcas. I also really did not think you were gonna reply to my message when I first DM'd you. Like I DM'd you and I was like, I was like, no shot this man sees it or messages. And you saw it while I was at work. And the little girl that showed me your TikTok was like, she goes, open your phone. I want to see. And I was like, relax. I just messaged him about the podcast. She goes, open your phone and let me see. And she was like, she literally ran to all her friends and was like, the Orca Man just replied to Miss Vicky's DM. And they were like, what do you mean? And she's like, she messaged him about the podcast and he responded. And they were like so adamant about like my love life, like
Oh
turning
yeah.
into this. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this isn't even,
The kids are good at manifesting.
I can see that.
Yeah, they well to the very least for
Made
you
it.
not thinking that you get a response to being the I don't know what episode of the podcast this is, for you being a guest on the
I think it was like
podcast.
the first one when I had messaged you. I was like, hey,
Oh yeah.
my kids are like very interested in this. Like, thank you.
Those are my
And
favorite
that
messages.
was like,
It works. I gotta say, those are my favorite messages. I gotta say, it's funny because I'll have a lot of different kinds of DMs. So anything that's thank you related is an immediate response, especially too, because like I only get so many, but there's been a couple that's like literally one person that just said shooting my shot and just those words. And I'm like, this ain't the place to do that. Sorry. But the like active investment within like the work or the content or like the things that it can produce, like there's not a question. And that makes it easy. That's one of the things, even like at growing this, that I've found. It's like if you reach out to a creator in a number of ways, and this is just good to know going forward, they'll usually see it. Especially Instagram DMs, like there's a good chance that they will come across it. At the least, get eyes.
yeah, I've noticed. I mean, some of them have taken it upon themselves to DM the guy that looks like Kylo Ren. That the guy messaged me and was like, hey, are you so and so? I was like, yes, I'm so sorry. They are so out of pocket and they don't understand boundaries because they're like 10.
Hold that for a second. The kids DM'd Kylo Ren.
The guy that looks like him, yeah.
The guy
And it
that,
was
well,
like,
yes.
and they were like, hey, our teacher's recently, it was like in April, they were like, our teacher's recently single. She's 22. It's like, oh my God.
That's hysterical. That's
I'm
impressive.
I'm glad they didn't find your Instagram because they would have
Immediate. They
the day
put in
after.
the work.
They do. I think it's because I promised them they could go to my wedding.
That's a big promise.
They were close enough to emailing Rob Gronkowski. I promise you, because they know I love Rob Gronkowski.
I could see it happening. For fifth graders, they're resourceful enough and they don't care.
they're like, we get to go to the wedding.
Yeah. Well, also too, like at 10, like there's no.
What else do you have going on in your life at 10?
Yeah, there's no repercussions for. Well, it's also like it has no effect to you. Like only good things can come out of it for you. Either they don't see it, or I get to go to a wedding potentially. Like that's two pretty good options.
And I mean, I'm glad like the Kylo Ren guy, he got a laugh out of it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like we're like good friends now, but like he got a lot. He thought it was genuinely funny that like they were like, she likes Star Wars. Let me go and tell this man my teacher's business.
Oh, seriously? Well, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. Like a lot of the stuff, especially with the kids, it's harmless. They're being 10-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have gone so far as to introduce me to older cousins or brothers.
Wow.
Which is interesting.
It's like my brother's picking me up from school today. You want to meet him?
Do you know how many times? It's literally how it goes. They'll like go to their car, run back, and be like, Miss Vicky, come here. I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, this is my older brother. He's 24.
How's it going?
I'm honestly glad that I did not DM you because I think I would have died. Like
I would have gotten a kick out of it. I know it for a fact. I'm also excited too. You like feel free to tell them like as or whatever happens going forward. It's like one of the things that I'm going to try to do soon is I want to travel for this, for like that kind of purpose too, because there are people even like you and me who like grew up and had no clue that there were other people who were interested, let alone like excited about this stuff. So we'll get in touch even more about that going forward, but that's going to be even more fun.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of glad that you do what you do because it created such like an interest in general. Like I literally never thought that like I didn't even think they knew I liked orcas like that to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean they did. Because I didn't really talk about it with them because like they didn't seem that interested in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess just like them seeing you. And the minute I said I thought you were attractive, that was it. They were like, oh, like we can
double whammy. Let's go. Let's bring it in.
Like,
no
all
problem.
Right, you can distract them with orca talk. Like, great.
That's a riot. Well, and that's what like with the interest part of it, it's got to be so specific. Like with even with people that I talk to, it's like there needs to be a hook in the first like 2 minutes or it's nothing. Like orcas are interesting. Tell me your favorite orca facts. It's like, no, You'd be introduced in like a way that makes you give a little bit of a crap.
You see, if like like, okay, you're my type. So like if you were to come up to me and talk about orcas, I think I'd listen. But like that was not my type were to come up to me and be like, oh, orcas, I'd be like,
They're like, oh boy.
unless I'm intoxicated, then I'm everybody's best friend and like orcas are my shit. Like my friends have told me I am notorious for talking to random humans about the environment when I'm extremely intoxicated.
Well, actually, so this could be a lot of fun. I am going to make a Patreon in the next little bit. I'm not sure if whether or not it will be up by the time that this podcast goes up, but on the Patreon, I already have one drunk podcast.
Beautiful.
I feel like that's a great behind a paywall, nice and specific, doesn't matter at all. I think we took down like a bottle of wine each, and I had a couple beers after. It was a great time. It was the longest podcast I'd had so far as well, which was just that speaks to in and of itself. Well, we can get that on the books.
Yeah, I've gone up to like random humans and I'm like, oh, I don't know if you know this, but I'll be sitting there like intoxicated. I'm like, Miami Seaquarium sucks. And Hugo was dumped in like the dumpster down the street from here. And everyone's like, what the fuck is going on?
No, who's this girl? What
like,
is she doing?
Who is this? And I'm very small in stature, so I often look like a child running around the bar anyway. I'm only 5'2", so like I look like
I
look like my student's height. So like I look like a child running loose in a bar.
Yeah.
Talking to everyone about orcas.
That's perfect.
So much so that like my friends are like, all right, she's trying to get people to like adopt orcas. We gotta go. Like, put her in the car.
She's doing conservation work. Come on, that's what it is. You get a grant for that.
Really what it is. No, but I've always been like that ever since I was little. For as long as I can remember, I've always been very adamant about like saving the oceans, saving the manatees, saving the orcas, just saving whales in general.
Yeah. Well, it's that enthusiasm, as I've seen, carries over into your teaching.
Yeah, it does.
What brought you down? So you said wanted to be an orca trainer, maybe way back when. But what was the path that led you into teaching? How did you start?
I originally was, this little starry-eyed 18-year-old kid who wanted to be an attorney.
Okay.
I started off as a law major.
Mm-hmm.
I did we covered like child abuse, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we got into the case of Gabriel Fernandez, which is now infamous because of Netflix.
Okay, yeah.
That case shook me to my core. And I literally walked over to the trash can and threw up in class.
Oh, shit.
And my professor comes with me, goes, go switch your major. Like, he was like, you don't have the heart. He was like, you have the heart to work with children, but your heart is not in it to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I was
like,
like,
different kind of breed.
Yeah, and I switched to education. Because he told me, he was like, your heart is way too big for you to deal with shit like this every day.
That's
thank you.
That's a lot of it's a lot of truth from a professor to be able to come up and tell, hey, that's a really good thing to have, at least.
I mean, I'm glad because like I don't like to throw up ever.
Yeah.
So I literally like walked over and I was like it was just like the case itself is like horrendous. Mm-hmm. So once I like realized, I was like, oh my God, like in the specific like branch of law I wanted to do is like, that's what you see every day. Like I wanted to do special victims cases. So like, that's like the shit you see like like you have to stomach it and take it home and go sleep to wake up the next morning to do it again for the case to potentially not even go the way you want it to. So I was like, I could not do this every day.
No, that's a big mental toll. God.
Yeah. And I do love working with kids. I've always liked to for as long as I can remember. So I was like, okay, maybe teaching is where I want to be.
And what year was that you switched over?
I was like the spring semester of my first year.
Oh, okay. So it was relatively early then too.
I had turned 19 towards the end already, and I decided that's what I wanted to do.
Gotcha. How'd you end up getting the gig at the place you are now?
I went there as a kid. So I knew everybody.
That's awesome.
So they knew me when I was obsessed with orcas and wanted to be an orca trainer.
And then you're walking in and the school's looking around, there's like, oh, okay, all right, we're in full swing now.
Once they heard the word orca, my boss immediately calls me down and goes, I know it's you. Like what? Like what? She's like, there's no one else in this building that could rattle children so much so to speak about anything. She's like, you have literally gotten the children to ban plastic straws from the cafeteria, refuse to use plastic utensils. She's like, I know it's you. She's like, there's no other like way, like there's no other human.
So wait, hold up. So this is a little bit different now too. In the school this year, and is this like what have the kids done in terms of that? Because I know you said earlier that like you're like, oh, if you bring plastic stuff in, we're not going to watch the Orca Man today. But changing the school policy is a little bit different.
So I'm very pro zero waste, or like minimizing our waste as much as possible.
Definitely.
Like I have bamboo utensils, I have a reusable water bottle, I have a
Yeah.
reusable coffee cup. Like the kids
Awesome.
know that. I'm
Yeah.
very like pro like trying to reduce our waste. And
Of
this little
course.
boy noticed I was wearing like I had like a bracelet with a turtle on it.
Hmm.
So the boy goes, "Oh, do you like turtles?" I was like, "Yeah, I do. I really like the ocean." And he was like, "Oh yeah, like I stopped using plastic straws because they're bad for the turtles."
Yeah.
And the kid behind him asked him like how. And that kind of became
Oh,
like the conversation. And I was like, okay, I like where this is going. I was like, yeah, we can't use turtles. Well, everyone knows the picture with like the turtle with the
of
straw and the
course.
nose. And I was like, but it goes beyond that, you guys. Like
Yeah.
this is an issue. Like microplastics exist, they're real. We eat about 4 pounds of them in a year.
Yep.
All I'm sitting there like, I'm 10, I've eaten 40 pounds of plastic in my life. Like, yeah, imagine me
Yeah.
that I'm old, like,
Yeah.
that I'm older than you guys.
A little bit different.
Yeah, so they were like, and then two of them like went to the principal and they asked her, they were like, do we have to have plastic straws in the cafeteria? I don't like them. And she was like, well, yeah, because of the milk. And this kid goes, but we don't really need them. And the
Interesting.
lady was like, our principal was like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, but we really don't need them. They're very,
Yeah.
the ones they would give them were very thin and flimsy anyways.
Sure.
So then our kids, like as a collective whole, wrote to the county, and the
Okay.
county as a collective whole, which I'm very proud of them, stopped using plastic straws.
The
In,
county.
yeah, like they took it so far as to tell their older siblings and their friends, and a bunch of kids were writing to the county. It just became
That's
like a
fantastic.
county-wide movement, and the whole county stopped using plastic straws.
All because you wore a bracelet.
Right. I don't know if that was like the sole reason, but like
No,
my
but like,
school definitely
yeah.
took part in like I know we were one of the schools that reached out to the county, and the county was impressed because they were so young and so like eloquently written in
That's
like their
fantastic.
research. Like the kids were like, no, because the oceans and the turtles. And this one kid actually wrote about microplastics
Yeah.
because I
That's a
had
big
talked to him
deal.
about it. And he like went home and like looked up what they were. And he like even wrote in his letter to the county, to the district, like, they're in our soil. So like even as we consume vegetables, like they're there.
Yeah.
And it made me so proud. All because I wore a bracelet with a turtle on it, which I wear all the time. I
That's
just didn't like it's the smallest things that you don't even think that they notice,
yeah.
that they
Well,
really do, and they'll ask you questions.
not only that, but like I think the most fascinating part of that entire saga for me is the kid behind him who asked how.
Yeah.
He's like oh no, the like plastic straws is about to bad for the turtles. He's like, wait, how does that work? Because that like thinking on that kind of level critically as a fifth grader, that's something like I didn't get until mid to late high school, even personally. Like understanding the full like supply chain where it goes after waste and things like that, and like understanding that it's a totality, like that's fantastic
I
to see that that's
literally
the interest.
I love and hate the internet at the same time because I know he didn't come to that conclusion on his own.
Yeah,
I
not
know
a
he had
question.
to have seen it via TikTok or Instagram, or all of them are like on literally most social media platforms. So like I know he saw
Hmm.
it somewhere,
Of course.
and I'm assuming he took interest in, or he felt bad for the turtles or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then he kind of like, because he knew a little bit about what I was talking about with microplastics.
Yeah. He was able to like keep up at least with the conversation.
Yeah, like he understood what I was trying to say, and he like kind of described it to the kid behind him in a way that a 10-year-old would be able to understand it, which to me
That's
was great because I was like, this kid is going places in the future.
he is. And that's also one of the biggest things that I'm trying to wrap my head around the more that I like actively enter the field of orcas and marine science and the rest is like people talk about conservation in very weird ways, and a lot of the big conservation that happens is very like write to your senators, write to your congressman, write to like write or like act in
Mm-hmm.
certain ways and like reduce your own personal waste. But the social aspect is not as heavily tapped into as it could be. Like the kids in the county focusing on the schools probably did more than 20 people or like a group of adults that would try to gather together and talk to it, if only because the kids are the ones that are being immediately affected and like within the school system.
Yeah, I think that's really why the county paid attention, because I think the kids, I know it was our school and a bunch of like our whole feeder pattern.
Yeah.
So feeder patterns here in our district are made up of schools, 3 high schools. So you have about 9 schools because most of us know each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all texting each other, hey, our kids are writing to the county about plastic straws. And
Yeah.
they were like, oh my God, let me ask my kids their opinion. And it became like our feeder pattern did it. And I know a couple other feeder patterns did it. So you have like 20 something schools writing to the county, begging them
That's
to stop using plastic straws. And we're the largest county in the country, like the largest school district in the country.
that's insane. That
So
like
all
that
these
that's
kids
a
are begging the county to be like, stop. Like we're a huge county as it is.
yeah. And
You have millions of students using plastic every day.
and that's one way to, and it, I hope that they understand the like breadth of impact that has, because that not only affects them, that affects every iteration of classes that comes after them too.
Yeah.
Like there are lobbied politicians that can't do that stuff. Like there are people that like that's their entire job and they can't get the job done.
I think it's just because they're kids, and I think they showed such an adamant interest in all of this
Yeah.
that it really made an impact. Because I think like even my boss like stepped back and was like, these kids really care. I'm like, yeah, because I talk to them and they actually like enjoy like what I have to say. And I
They'll
was like,
want to
I
listen.
explained to her that there was a TikTok page, like that you are who you are.
Yeah.
She was like, that's so strange that the kids, and I was like, I was like, leave it be. Like
It's outside of the classroom. And
I
when it
was
is
like,
in,
they're
it's
at
free.
home. I was like, what they find on TikTok is at home. I was like, if they
Yeah.
come in to show me the next day, it's different.
Yeah. No, it's not immediate from there. That's crazy. All right, so they've banned plastic straws. So you also mentioned that each classroom next year is going to have an orca adoption, if I'm right. If I
Yes,
hear that right?
yes, because it became such a phenomenon, and all my coworkers were asking me like, what, like, how did you manage to get the kids so interested in something? I was like, honestly, it started with one little girl
Yeah.
seeing a TikTok, showing me the TikTok, and then her friends becoming interested in who this person was and what he does. And I was like, they're actually interested, and it's something that is a fun activity, because I know the classroom pack comes with like worksheets and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was like, after testing, it's like a good, even before we could do it as like a whole year activity, and you
You
can as a side activity, because they're even kindergartners were like interested in like orcas and what they were.
just in general as like an animal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were like it's big. It's huge.
That's
I think the
insane.
biggest shocker to kinder was that the white patch is not an eye.
Oh yeah, because that's a
I was
wild
like,
concept
they
even
were
to me
like,
now.
what? They were like, that's not their eye. I was like, no, that's not their eye. And
That's
then
wild.
even one of the ladies that works with me, she literally came up to me and she was like, I had no idea that orcas were like this. And I was, the kids were talking about dorsal fins and how big they really are,
Yeah.
and like how big orcas actually are. And she came up to me, she goes, I've been to Seaquarium almost once a year for Lolita's entire captivity, and I have not once like realized how big she actually is.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah,
It takes a lot.
crazy.
Sometimes it takes kids or a village. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
I
it's
still
really
I have to tell you that like this your story in Miami is, or just like the community there, my favorite part of this so far. Like genuinely, because it's the most real world impact that I've seen. Like in terms of taking information and then just running with it that hasn't already been created, because the Pacific Northwest is very within itself, but seeing the kids and you getting them in the community itself excited, like I cannot commend you enough,
thank you.
because that like it's insane, like that's wild. Like to the fullest extent. What was the first time that teachers, or do you remember like in the beginning when teachers would start talking to you, like what those conversations would be?
Like when I was a student.
No, when like right now, like as a teacher teaching the kids, and like other teachers are coming up to being like, yo,
Um,
Vic, what is going on?
I think the first one was one of the teacher's kids that was in my classroom
Okay.
went back to her mom and was like, "Oh, this guy from TikTok, like he talks about orcas and I think they're really cool." And then she was like, "Can we go outside of this aquarium?" Because it's a very common fact that people here do protest Lolita's living conditions outside of the Miami Aquarium all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. All
And
the
then,
literally every day. Yeah.
she came up to me. She's like, "Hey, what are you talking to him about?" And I was like, "Oh, so and so showed me a video
Hmm.
that this guy posted that this guy posted, and she was talking to your daughter and her little group of friends, and like they all kind of were like genuinely curious. So I answered whatever questions they had, and they wanted to know about the orca that lives here, Lolita, and I
Yeah.
kind of like talked about it in the gist of the information I know about Lolita, which is not much, very limited,
It's all right.
because the Miami Aquarium doesn't really.
They don't give much information out.
They've turned off their comments on Instagram from the amount of shit that they've received, and I've gone to the Miami Aquarium to
Yeah.
protest, and I've seen them. I've even driven by intoxicated. Well, I wasn't driving, I was in the car, and I've cried passing, driving past them.
It's well, because
Extremely
Lolita's story
weird.
is the largest story of a captive killer whale that's currently alive, at the very
Yeah.
least.
I mean, she was brought to the Miami Aquarium the same year my dad was born,
Hold up. It was 1970.
1970. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That
So
was it's
yeah, and
wild.
she was like 5 or 6, so she's been there 51 years now.
Yeah, and she was
A
with Hugo
ridiculous
for
amount of
about
time.
30 of them. Because if you haven't yet, there is a talk by Jason Colby, and I'll try to link it in the chat because Jason Colby wrote a book, Orca: How We Came to Know and Love the Ocean's Greatest Predator, and its main character, so to speak, is this guy named Ted Griffin. I'm not sure how much you've heard of him.
Mhm.
He's he was one of the big starters, if not the starter, of the orca capturing industry in the Pacific Northwest. He was the one who initiated the captures at Penn Cove, which Lolita was a part of, and
Yeah.
brought her in. But in one of Jason's talks, because he talks about it in the book a little bit, but in one of his talks, he talks about introduce like introducing Ted back to Lolita after 40 to 50 years. And it's a crazy and wild story, and it becomes more personal than I ever thought about orcas ever. Like, because I used to think about orcas like, oh, Willie, Keiko, like they're whales that are far off, but just like see the
Yeah.
connections they have with certain people in different areas. It's wild. That's wild.
Yeah, it's definitely something that like it's mind-boggling to me, especially here that like so I don't know, well, you've never I don't think you've ever been here.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so not too far from Miami Aquarium
Yeah.
is the original aquarium, which is now abandoned.
Okay.
The original whale aquarium is like 3 times the size of Lolita's current tank.
Really?
Yeah, so
I didn't know that.
a lot of people don't know it exists unless
Hmm.
you're from here because I think they had it and they never put Lolita in it. It
Okay.
was built and then it was abandoned. So like Lolita and Hugo were supposed to be in there. It's
Yeah.
literally now abandoned, covered in graffiti. It's like a spot for people to take pictures at. Like
That's
people
insane.
skate where the tank is built because it's empty.
That's nuts.
And it's like 3 times the size of what she currently lives in.
I'm gonna have to take a visit. You're gonna have to show me the spot when I come
I will
down
take you. It is
because that's insane.
insane to me. Like you like walk along the side and you're like, this is a lot bigger than what. And if you
Yeah,
see, I have
cool.
to find a picture. I think there's an aerial view of like the abandoned one versus the.
Oh, there's got to be. Also, too, you can
I
like
think there is. I'm pretty sure it exists. I'll find it.
even with Google Satellite. I'll once we post the podcast, I'll throw it up on my Instagram so you can go check it out on there.
Yeah.
To anybody listening. But that's got to be wild. That's another thing too. I was with defunding a lot of the marine parks. That was one of the things that I was most interested in the beginning. Even on TikTok, when people ask me about captivity, it's like one of the things that I'll continuously say is they need to be open to care for the whales. Like there's definitely parks that can
I
do
have a
that.
very controversial opinion on captivity.
What do you got?
Like I tell like a lot of my students, obviously when they started getting interested in you, they would ask me like, oh, well, what do you think? And I was like, well, yes, it's bad, but I was like, where are they going to put them? Like, there's
Yeah.
no other place to send them. I was like, we send them to the wild, they're gonna die
Hmm.
or be eaten by another pod of whales. I was like,
Yeah.
we literally cannot, like, they have to pass away in captivity because there's no other way to like
Yeah.
release them into the wild. You cannot rehabilitate them. You can't. Yeah, and then there's a lady at my job that loves to argue with me on my opinion on captivity. She's like, oh, but they can catch birds. I'm like, okay, your dog could catch a squirrel, go put your dog in a pack of wolves, and your dog is not going to survive.
Yeah. Go
It's
have
the
fun.
same thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Also,
your
it's
cat could kill a lizard, but go put your cat with a pack of tigers. It's not going to do the same job. Like,
no, it's also used to. This is another thing. I'm always interested with the trainers. I want to try to talk to a trainer on here explicitly, if only because, like, people can say whatever they want to about the relationship between trainers and orcas. I've only read one book by a trainer themselves, um, who talked about how she interacted and how the whales would interact with her, and it, like, that also has to have some semblance of an effect, whether or not they transfer or where they're going or like they're seeking human interaction. Because that's another big thing, is that if wild orcas are, or if orcas are accustomed to interacting with humans and they go up to the wrong boat, they're screwed. Some guy
yeah,
turns the motor the wrong way, and that's game over. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's there that makes that conversation even more interesting.
yeah. It's definitely like, the student, like my students were very like, they had a lot of questions, and I was like, I don't think I have all these answers.
If so,
Like there was
even
things that like I felt like I didn't have answers for.
if you ever end up getting that and you want to like write up a list to send my way, do it all the time. Because even if I can't, this is one of the things that I'm trying to do right now, is I'm trying to build enough of a research community that I'll be able to find the answers to whatever questions there might be. And that's also
Yeah.
to any audience members. If you have questions, I can figure it out.
He does
Um,
respond to DMs.
it
Clearly.
is in fact a thing. Um, no, there's also too, like, I actually, it's funny the people that you meet through social media channels, because there was actually one woman who was a trainer for a little bit at SeaWorld, and she is like a network of trainers that she talks to. And I was able to like send a photo of a whale that I was like standing in front of when I was a child. And it said like, this was the park it was, this is the year, and they were able to like ID the whale and tell me who she was.
That's
It's like,
crazy.
this is
That's
insane. Like,
insane.
yeah, I'm like, that kind of stuff is like, people don't. Orcas were orcas when I was a kid. It was just like the idea of the animal itself was the fascinating part, and then
Yeah,
learning the
I just thought
individuals
they were
recently.
cool. Like I was like, oh, Free Willy, like
Of course,
same animal.
yeah.
I didn't really like process like how individual. Well, it happened to me with most animals as a kid. Like I think I didn't really like come to like the realization that they're like very different until I was like much older.
Hmm.
Like I didn't realize like, that they're like yeah, like I knew they were like obviously there was multiple orcas, but like I didn't really like realize like there was so many different kinds and like they live in different places and varying by region and like they sound different. Like I didn't really realize that until I was a little older in a marine biology class in high school.
Yeah. Well, even like, I've been talking a lot, and I've been thinking a lot about like the perceptual aspects of a lot of the conversations, even with the turtles. It's like, the reason that the kid probably cared was because he liked turtles a little bit and he didn't want the straws to affect them. But the perception that your straw that you have in your school can then go into a landfill and then get transferred into the ocean, and like that process chain is hard to conceptualize. And then
Yeah.
even more so, like, as a kid, dogs are dogs. But then if you meet one that you like start to get to know, you're like, that's not just any dog though, that's an important dog.
Yeah.
Because you know a name, you can care about them, you know a little bit about their history. And so that's one of the things I like to like, I think his work too, is like introducing people to individual whales usually helps with any conversation.
Yeah, that the adoption process of Lapis definitely helped a lot with the kids really getting into orcas because they were like, well, this is our orca.
It's
Like
my baby.
this is my whale. Like
Yeah.
I don't know who you have, but we have this one. So it's very much like this is our in essence our class pet. Like they were like,
Yeah.
this is our orca, like this is her name, this is where she lives. She has this kid, these are her siblings, her mom is Nugget. Like they knew, like they learned, and they like towards the end of the year they were bringing technology, and I was like, yes, you. I was like, Google orca facts, like for all I care.
Have
Like
fun.
I was whoever figures it out, like they would sit there and they would look up like videos of orcas and orcas doing things, and they would look up like orcas like communicating with each other,
Yeah.
and they were like, oh my god, but toothed whales are different from this, and I was like, yes, I'm so proud.
They're making their own. That's some serious research. I remember looking up when I was a kid, it was just like orcas, just in general. I didn't even look up orca facts.
Because I had
Just
had
very,
them
very
doing that
limited.
competition that I told you about who could find the most interesting orca fact.
Did you get any funny ones out of that one?
This little girl, she was like, orcas are B positive blood type. I was like, I
What?
don't think so. I was like, I don't think so. She made it up, but it was like the effort was there. And
That's
then
impressive.
my favorite orca fact that I received was the Orca Man is Miss Vicky's favorite TikToker. I was like, you're not wrong.
That's a good orca fact.
I was like, this is like frame this one.
You get a check plus.
Yeah,
That's
and
too good.
then the only one that did surprise me was the kid that told me this one kid looked up that I think it was correct me if I'm wrong, please. That
Yeah, you got
resident
it.
orcas eat salmon
Yeah,
and transient orcas don't.
yeah. You're
Like I
exactly
didn't
right
know
there.
that, and then he told me, and I was like, "Congratulations, you won!"
That's awesome. That's a big and very specific differentiator that a lot of people don't know. Even in my TikTok comment section, there was people that were arguing like, "What's the difference between residents and transients? One of them sticks around a long time." That's not technically true now. Like, she got it on the nose with that one, so I give him a lot of props.
Yeah, that kid blew me out of the water. And then another kid was like talking about like the height of like dorsal fins and how
which
they're
is
very tall. I don't
which is
remember the
absurd.
exact height he gave me, but it was something like ridiculous. Like
So
I felt small next to it. He said it was like 6 foot something.
yeah, so if you, I have like a sweatshirt on right now that's Granny and Ruffles, which are two whales that are now gone. But Ruffles is like known. He's been in the Free Willy movies. He was like a very big whale around here. There's two museums that have exhibits on him right now. Or no, there's like a life-size statue of his dorsal fin, and there's a life-size statue of him in two different places in the Pacific Northwest. But his dorsal fin is like 6'2", 6'3".
Holy shit.
Like it's
That's like a foot taller than me.
that's like from his back. So like if you were standing on the back of Ruffles, the dorsal fin would tower over you. Or if you were standing on a kayak and he like just breathed, the dorsal fin would be above you.
Let me tell you, as someone who kayaks, I think I'd shit my pants.
I would too. Yeah. I've been asked a lot. I'm trying to figure out how I like respond to a lot of the comments, because if I was in the water with an orca, I wouldn't feel scared, but I would have a healthy, just like no muscle in my body would move. Just not paralyzed,
Like
but
snorkeling,
very aware.
like snorkeling in the Keys, I've seen sharks.
Yeah.
I've never had a reaction to sharks. I just kind of let them do their thing because I'm like, leave it alone.
You do your thing, whatever.
I think I've panicked more with dolphins in the water than I have with sharks.
Dolphins will move at you though.
Yeah, that's why I panic.
Was
I'm like, oh my god, and they're wild dolphins. It's not like, oh, I'm in a pretty little place and dolphins there, and no, it's like I'm in your house. Like this is free reign.
The dolphin can mess up your day as much as they want to.
I'm like, you can
no one's gonna
grab
give you
me, and
insurance.
that's that. Like you can grab me, and there's like one other kayak on the water to help.
Yeah, that's absurd. Yep, that's not a lot of thing that people think about when they go in. It's not a thing that a lot of people think about when they go into the ocean. There are some people that think about it too much.
My coworkers, I've taken them with me, and they're like, I'm not getting in there. There's animals in there. I'm like, yeah,
that's the point. That's what we want.
I'm like, we're putting on masks to go and see. Like, and they're like, I'm good here in the land. I do panic when I come across barracudas all the time.
Barracudas sound terrifying.
They are.
I I would
I
be
literally take
that's
out every piercing I have in my body before I get into the water.
oh, because they might.
So I have like 3 in this ear,
Yeah,
2 in the nose ring. So I take the nose ring because it's like with the mask you don't see it, but I take out every earring because they are attracted to anything remotely shiny. Like
that's
it's
nuts.
and it like they I've had experiences where like I'm here, Barracuda's here, and they're like flared out, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, this is like the beginning of Finding Nemo, and I'm
Yeah,
the fish.
I wouldn't go back in the water personally. For me, that would scare the living crap out of me.
This is what it is.
Yeah,
They go
it's
away eventually. You just
that's
can't
fair.
move.
Really, you just that so
You just have to
to
sit there and
it's like
let
a
them
T
go away.
Rex.
Yeah, you literally just like until they go away. The sharks are a little more like, well, where I go snorkeling, it's usually just hammerheads and bonnetheads.
Okay,
Couple of sharks, so they're not human aggressive sharks.
yeah, they're just
They
hanging
just
out.
don't want to see what you are,
That's fun.
and like, they're very used to people in the Keys because it's a big touristy spot.
Yeah,
So like, you know, I'd be lying if I said I haven't touched the hammerhead just to touch it, and they'll
yeah.
turn around and like brush you, and
Oh, what's
I'm
up,
like, I don't know.
man? What are
I'm
you
like,
doing?
okay, I'm like, I guess you liked it.
Yeah,
There's some that they do, like they'll come up to you and they'll just like brush their dorsal fin amongst your hand, and that's it, and
interesting.
they'll leave. But it's
Nuts.
interesting to see how like they're accustomed to people
Yeah, very much so.
because it's a big spot and it's like a very popular spot to snorkel at. Same
Interesting.
with the manatees over there. The manatees will come up to you like nothing happened.
Manatees are massive too.
They're huge.
Yeah,
People
they're
underestimate how big they are.
yeah, and I can only imagine those just casually coming up and like saying hello. I don't They're like, hey,
That's my
how's it going, buddy?
it's always my favorite when like I'm snorkeling with someone who hasn't been before and we see a manatee
Yeah,
because they're like, what is that? They're like, that's so big. I'm like, it's beautiful. Like it's a manatee. Like
of course. Well,
everyone's
it's
like,
also
ew. And I'm like, they're so cute. Like, what do you mean ew? It's like beautiful. Like, it's beautiful to me.
it's beautiful to me. That's a great sound. Um, no, that makes a lot of sense. Also, too, when you're in the water with something, especially for anybody that's coming in for the first time, it is way bigger than you think it is. Like if you're
Manatees are
like
huge.
up close and personal and there's no barrier, everything gets very real very fast.
Manatees are huge.
Yeah.
For anyone that does not know, like I am the size of a baby manatee.
Baby.
I don't know how tall you are, but I'm about the size of like a baby slash juvenile manatee.
I'm like 5'10. 5'10,
Okay.
5'11.
So you're like small adult manatees are like your height. Like smaller baby
Yeah.
manatees are like 3, 6, somewhere to 4 feet. And they're pretty big. And they're very wide. Like
Oh no, they're
it's a
heavy set.
big ass animal.
Yeah.
They swim very slow, but it is a big ass animal coming at you if you don't know what to expect.
How do you when you see a manatee when you're snorkeling, what goes on?
I get extremely excited.
Okay, that's a good
I
reason
love
to say.
manatees, so like I get very excited. Like I swim next to them. They are very playful though. They do like hose water. So like
Interesting.
my friend has a house in the Florida
Yeah.
Keys, and like if they hear your hose, they'll come up to you and they'll like flip belly up and they like open their snout for you to put fresh water in their mouth.
That's smart.
It's so beautiful. It's
They know
awesome.
what's
I
up.
don't know. When you come here, you have to go to the Florida Keys. You will find manatees in the water. It's great.
It's gonna be like the
Saltwater
longest time
crocs
I
are
spent in
very
Florida.
common too. Saltwater crocs are very
Crocs?
common.
Oh,
Yeah.
so fun.
Those are not, I'm scared of those.
Yeah, those are
That and
those
dolphins
are
and
special.
barracudas cause you to go into panic.
Barracudas and Crocs would for me. Dolphins, I feel like I need an experience to like actively be like, oh no, you're
Have
nuts.
you have
You're
you not
crazy.
heard?
About what? Oh no, I know what dolphins do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know if you're aware,
I
but I
am
am
aware.
terrified.
Yeah, that I wouldn't want that personally. That would be
Me
something
either. That's
special.
why I see them and I'm like, this is your
Yeah,
problem.
for anybody that listening that doesn't know, dolphins are a little rapey.
They're rapists and
Yeah,
they
a little
want
bit.
to drown people for fun.
They're wild. I saw a post recently that was there's some like because it's been recognized that that cetaceans, so dolphins have pseudo moral compass, like they can understand and interact to a certain degree, also means that they're capable of malice. and like
Yeah,
being
I think
mean
that's what scares me about them.
consciously. Yeah, that's
Which is why I see them and I'm like,
it's a lot. You don't need to hang out.
we
It's
were
all
up in
good.
Daytona. I sent it in the Discord. The scene bottlenose dolphins.
Gotcha.
I don't know if you saw that video. In
I
like
don't
the
think so.
Discord, I posted it. But
Oh, you did. Yeah. There might have
yeah.
been a chance. I need to get more active on it. I'm trying slowly but surely, especially too, because I was home for a little bit. It was rough to stay consistent, but I'm slowly but surely getting into a routine here. So that will be more. For anybody who hasn't joined already, we got a Discord open. Hop on. It's gonna be good. That'll be solid. All right. So we're inching up on a little bit over an hour. But one of the things that I really wanted to pick your brain at, especially for anybody that's listening that is a teacher, it's practices for getting kids excited. So some of the things you did this year, what are some of the things you did this year that the kids really responded well to, or things you noticed and picked up on and then acted on that worked out really well?
I know aside from like the Orca thing, like Harry Potter talk was huge during quarantine.
Okay.
Like all these kids came back. Oh, I think Draco's hot, and I think so and so's cute, and I'm like, have you read the books? No, let's start.
Yeah.
And I think it just started with like taking their in what I would see they were interested in and trying to like squeeze it into like how can I make this a lesson, or like how can I keep their interest using something that they're visibly excited about to keep them
Yeah.
engaged. Because I know as a kid, I was like, when it came to math, I was always super bored
Because
when
who
it came to
cares?
math class. Like, I was like, who the fuck? To this day, I can't do math. I use TikTok to teach math. It was nuts. I don't know how it worked, but it did.
Good for you.
Like, I was like, oh, if so and so gains 10 followers every hour, how many followers will so and so gain every hour? And they learned. And I was like, if I tell you, if I get this many apples in the hour, you can't. Like,
That's the difference.
yeah, it was literally like, it's like in the office, like that this guy can only do math with like pi. It was like
Yes.
it was like finding their like niche and like going with it.
Gotcha. That's important.
And
That's
like making
huge.
sure they were like obviously age appropriate activities. Like,
You got to play with it
I
well.
think with like science, you know, the orcas were so interesting because it was like it's a very specific animal,
Mm.
but there's so much you can talk about habitats, you can talk about the way that they work in pods, the fact that they're matriarchs. Like there's so many lessons you can do with just this
The singular
animal
species.
specifically.
Yeah. Got you.
Like they really liked the whole competition that they had to find the most interesting fact because it really got them to like think. And you
Like
would see
what?
the excitement in like the fact that there's a competition and there's a prize. So they were like, they would just go at it and typing and typing and typing and typing and just looking for it. Like, okay, she said she knows this, she knows that, she knows this.
Yeah.
It was like something that I didn't know already. So they were like,
That's a
they were
big
just
deal.
going at it.
That's also one of the things with that particular exercise is being able to critically think about the questions to ask to find the facts. Because
Yeah.
you can just look up orca facts if you want to, but like going through and trying to really sift through the stuff I guarantee you did in college. The stuff that
Yeah.
I know I did is just like looking through like what works, what arguments, how does this support, how does this not support, whatever else. Like those skills are extremely transferable, you know, even in fifth grade.
That's why I was like, I want them to do it because a lot of them I found with like our testing, this is a different tangent, but like with state standardized testing,
Yeah.
I don't know how it works where you're originally from. You said
Mm-hmm.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have like testing up there.
Oh yeah.
So like the kids, they memorize the fuck out of everything. You ask them to apply it, they don't know how to.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know they know how to memorize, but they don't know how to study.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this is something that they can use later in life that will become applicable. I know I didn't know how to properly study till like I hit like late middle school, early high school, because up until that point with Florida's testing, my whole life was memorization.
Yeah. It
Everything
was
was
just regurgitating whatever.
exactly. And I was always really good at science. So I never studied for a science class in my life, not even in college.
Wow. Well done.
Thank you.
That's impressive. There's a
I
lot
mean,
of people that can't
I
say
took oceanography and marine biology as my two sciences.
that.
I didn't have to. that I
Fair enough.
left my professor shocked because my professor was like, I've never had someone earn an A in this class and not buy the textbook.
That's well done. That's a
He
big
to
deal.
this day is like, I still talk to him often. He was had another person sit there because he put up a picture of a shark and he goes, who can identify the shark? I was like, duh, it's an oceanic black tip. He goes, how do you know that? I was like, you can't tell the difference between that and a white tip, like you're screwed.
Like, so sorry, buddy, you're done.
Because black tips are naturally human aggressive and they'll fuck you up to fuck you up. White tips are not. So I was like, duh, you don't know the difference, like you're fucked. And he was like, you actually know this. I was like, yeah. And he was like, you don't even need to buy a textbook. Like you're gonna do well in my class.
That's
And
huge.
I had the same professor twice. And when I went back in for marine biology,
You're fine.
he was like, it's you. He's like,
Don't worry about it.
please. He was like, you're gonna ace this with your eyes closed.
That's awesome. That's really no, that's solid. And even more than that too, it's like that's got to be fun as something that you're like in all for all intents and purposes. That's your niche that you were able to kind of like extend even further there. Like for the kids, like, oh, I'm really into works. It's like learn a lot about them, and then like I'm gonna if you can be tested on them and on about something that you know.
Yeah, I don't believe in homework or testing. I'm a
Learning
very
for this,
like
learning for the sake of learning is kind of important.
yeah, like I get called a hippie by every teacher in the building because that's just how I am. I literally wear like giant t-shirts, Birkenstocks, like to work. And then I sit there and I tell the kids, I'm like, well, you know what? We don't have homework in this class. Like
I
whatever you don't finish is what you take home to do.
and but the thing with the class is you've given them enough agency as people to go out and do the things that they wanted to as well, like to actively affect change at the same point in time.
Like all the
That's
parents have my number. They all know how to reach me. So like even now that it's summer,
yeah.
my phone is like constant. I literally have like emails. Oh Lord, I have emails. Okay.
Yeah.
I have like emails and texts from parents, even now,
Yeah.
that are like, hey, so and so wants to travel to see orcas. Where do I take them? So and
That's
so
awesome.
said that you were gonna go to Friday Harbor in August. Are you still going? I'm like, maybe. Like
Looks open.
depending on I don't want to see you on vacation, but maybe. Very small island. Like I don't want to come across you. It's
Oh,
not
and
like no offense. I just don't want to come across you.
I'm going there to go on vacation.
Yeah,
I'm not
like
going to be babysitting.
the parents know. They're like the Patriots phone case is always the Patriots phone is always open.
The Patriot. Also, it's funny that it's a Patriots phone.
I
How do you
wish I was
do you
kidding.
do you get? Oh no, I saw it as soon as you lifted it up. And anybody that's on either the radio or Spotify or any other app right now, you got to come on to the YouTube to see it. Why Pats? Just is it Rob?
My dad
Yep.
came from Cuba. My dad
Okay,
immigrated here in 1994, I think.
gotcha.
That was the first team he saw play.
Oh, that would do it.
So literally my closet is full of Patriots gear. I have Patriots everything basically. I've been a huge Patriots fan my whole life. I get a lot of shit for it because I live in Miami.
Fair, makes a lot
And
of
that's like
sense.
one of the most infamous rivals is Dolphins and Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend is a hardcore Dolphins fan.
Oh, it's gonna be
So that's
fun.
his dad. They have like season tickets. So every time the Patriots play here, we go, and
Oh, sick.
I got a lot of stares. We always
All
end up on
right.
the jumbotron because we look funny. I'll be sitting in the Dolphins section, head to toe,
Pat's
and like
gear.
jerseys, and my face is painted, and I go all out.
That's awesome. That's the right way to go, though. I gotta
Yeah,
say, I'm from Massachusetts. I'm from Boston, but I'm a Steelers fan.
I can respect that.
As Steelers are decent. They're not. They're
Because
not.
you're
They're
not
not
gonna
too
sit
much
here
of
and tell me you're
rivals.
a Cowboys fan.
Not a chance. Not a chance. I don't believe they exist. Actually.
I deny their existence. I'm like,
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen them. No, but in terms of rivalries, I grew up a Yankee fan in Boston. That was fun. So I feel your
you're a
pain.
Yankees fan?
I'm a Yankees fan.
Me too.
Hey, good stuff. They're not
Grandma
doing
grew up
well.
in New York.
What's up?
My grandma grew up in New York when she
Oh,
immigrated here. So
oh, cool. My dad's from Brooklyn.
nice.
Yeah. So that's always been fun going down. I even went to a game when I went back home, which was oh my god, I love it. it's just so nice to be able to go for
How
that.
was being back home after being in a different country for so long?
Well, because it wasn't even being in a different country. I was in Canada. I don't know how many people know this. Like Vancouver itself was shut down for about a year and a half. Like I didn't see more than 15 people from March of
Wow.
2020 to like the until I went back home. Um, and I didn't leave Canada. I hadn't gone back home for the year and a half. So no summer, no Christmas, stuff like that.
Wow.
So walking back into not only Boston and like seeing everybody, but like having things open, like I went out clubbing for like
Wow.
2 or 3 days a week
It's a big
for a
step.
month. Yeah, well, I was ready. And also too, I had never been 21 in the States.
Yeah, I turned
So
21 locked in the house. So
yeah,
it was not
I
fun.
I was 21 here. I was 21 here when I turned, and I just never stepped into. I never was able to drink at home legally. So finally being able to go out, that was a blast. I gotta
Yeah,
say.
here when the clubs reopened, like I was never home because I mean I had to turn 21 locked in the
Yeah,
house. It sucked.
yeah,
We
it's
went
kind of
through the same
terrible.
thing. You went through a similar thing, I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Oh, of course. It's dangerous. It sucked when it happened, but as soon as you get the green light, it's like okay, game on.
My birthday's in April, so it was
Oh,
like it was like
literally.
dead pandemic, like everything was shut down.
Damn.
I was
Were you
born on
able to
20, so
were you able to go for 2021 like this April? Like by April this year, was things opened up? Because I have a friend that's in Tampa, and I'm pretty sure he was pretty okay
things
by
have
then.
been I like COVID existed here for like 3 months max, and then
See,
everything was
that's
open
wild.
nothing. Miami was very odd.
Yeah,
Like here, like my 21st, it was in April, so it was like right as the pandemic kind of started to really take effect.
sure.
I was born on 420, ironically enough.
Oh, look at that.
So like it hit, like I was really locked in the house. I think I went to like our grocery store and I got myself like beer.
Yeah,
Like that was it. That
it's
was
like
my
so
21st
fun.
birthday.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like my neighbor like gave me a tequila bottle over the fence. I've known them for years. And he was like, oh, he was like, it sucks. You're turning 20. Like you can legally drink now. You're stuck
That's
at
like
home.
so fun. That's just what you want to hear.
This is great. Everything is fine.
That's all right. Well, when you say 3 months, if it happened in March, April, May, was things open up like last summer then?
Towards like August, things like
Yeah,
so the clubs didn't really open up till like August, September,
sure.
but the beaches were never really closed.
Mm-hmm.
So people were still going to the beach. They just had
Long
like
term.
you couldn't they tried to like crowd control, like, oh, you can't bring alcohol, you can't do this at the third, but
Sure.
you know,
You can't.
I
Okay,
mean,
sure. Yeah, tell
I
me.
was not behaving during quarantine either.
Mm-hmm.
I was like at home the first like I was like at home, I want to say to like May, and then I started working again in person in June
Yeah,
at a summer camp. So like that was like, all right, I
you're
was like,
out.
I'm in it. Like that's it. Like fuck it. If I'm gonna get sick, I'm gonna get sick.
Yeah. Well,
And
especially
then
it's a community
it,
thing at that point in time too. It's like
yeah,
this is what this is what we're up. This is what we've decided to do.
yeah. So it's like okay, like summer camps are open. We're working full
Yeah.
time. I was like, if we're gonna get sick, we're gonna get sick. And then there was like, these clubs were open, but they were closing early.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, you can go clubbing till 12.
Interesting.
So it's like, yeah, okay, I can
All
only
right.
catch the virus at 12:01
Yeah, that's
and
the
onward.
cutoff point.
Yeah, right. Like, all right, it's 12:01. The virus is active. Everybody, like, no. So people were going to each other's houses. A lot of house parties.
Yeah, makes sense.
The local band scene here was still extremely active, COVID or not.
Oh,
Because
find it. Those always find a way.
that is something I like to do. I do like those things
Mm,
to the point that my
nice.
students listen to the music I listen to now, and I think it's kind of
Look at
scary.
that. If you had to plug any artists, what would you plug?
The Midday Moon, they're the
Midday
best.
Mood. Oh, you have them up already. Nice.
Shirt on.
Midday Mood.
And yeah, and Happy Hour, the band, depending on what you like.
Okay. And check both of them out. Midday Moon and Happy Hour.
Yeah.
As any of the listeners too. Well, that works a treat. All right. So as of right now, I feel like we're just hitting over an hour. So this is as good a place to wrap it up as any. Thank you so much again. Do you want to give a shout out just in case any of your kids are listening? Because there's a good chance that they might be. Not to like names or anything like that, but if you want to say,
I'm not gonna say any names. I'm not gonna say any names, but if she is listening, she knows who she is. And I love her and I miss her dearly. And I'm still single.
This is coming up on
very
another
adamant
story.
about me and her brother. She was very adamant. No, and she's going to middle school, so I wish her good luck.
Aww.
I miss her dearly.
That's
I cried
lovely.
when she left. She was the one that I had sent you the picture of. That her end of year award was most likely to free the orcas.
Oh yeah.
she was the one that really like took Orcamania and like ran with it. She's the reason it started. Like it started with her, and then like it became like
it just grew.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you feed. That's too wonderful. All right. Well, once again, guys, I am Fred, the Orca Man, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Boom. Wonderful. Bottom.